Hello and welcome to another Raggy's beer review. So today we're going over to to Salem Brew Company. Now, Salem Brew Company may mean nothing to most people, but this is basically Batemans Brewery's more craftier beer arm in essence. Still in the bottle, although bottles and cans. Most people look at bottles as being modern traditional beers, and cans as being craft beers. However, it's not always the case. There are a lot of traditional beers and smooth beers, should we say, in cans. So, it's not always that per se. It's what the beer tastes like that matters, I suppose, in that respect. So this is Skull and Hammers. It's an American IPA. It's 5.5% ABV. I've been at work all day. I'm tired. Although I was going to do extra work tonight, but nobody got hold of me, and they still haven't got hold of me, which is a bit annoying. So this is brewed with Chinook, Cascade, and Citra hops. Says on the back, as fourth generation craft brewers, our adventurous streak at Salem Brewery is what keeps us thirsty for more. Being one of the first breweries in the UK to focus on small batch production, we're now driving our beer evolution through Salem Brew Company. This pale, hoppy, small batch American IPA is brewed and late hopped with American hops to produce an aromatic nose, citrus taste, and piney finish. Salem Brew Company, Salem Bridge Brewery, Mill Lane, Wainfleet in Lincolnshire. PE24. The postcodes really make me laugh, the postcodes. But anyway, 4JE, England. SalemBrewCo.com. But in essence, it is Batemans Brewery. You go on their website and you can get it from them. It is what it is. A lot of breweries go down this route where they bring beers out in a more craftier form and use a different name for that so people don't get confused. Ooh, a lot of pine on the nose then, to be honest. So there we go. And I've just worked out there's actually a Bateman's Brewery pub, supposedly, if Google is to be believed, in Ilkeston. Shipley Common in Ilkeston. I have no idea if that's correct because Google has took me on a chase, and I've got to somewhere and then they said, "No, mate, this has nothing to do with that." And I'm like, "But it says on Google." So as we can see, it's what we call a light golden pour. Good subtle carbonation going up. Bear in mind, all depends on the glass as well. And this is from the Robin Hood Beer Festival in 2015. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. I'm not sure if Bateman's Brewery were at that one. 2015 would have most likely have been at Nottingham Castle. Nottingham Castle, for those who didn't know this channel and know of me, Nottingham Castle is one of my former workplaces. I used to work for Nottingham City Council for 22 years as a gardener, still a gardener now. I worked from 1998 or 1988 even to 2010. And for 20 years of that, I was based at the Arboretum, but working from the Arboretum, we'd do the city centre and also the castle. So if you think about Nottingham Castle, in the old days, not now, it's closed, isn't it? It's ridiculous. But in the older days, we used to have the flowers on the bank, used to have writing in beds on the bank, free beds. We used to have fun with squirrels and foxes, but that's another story. And I used to be one of the gifted people that could actually do one of those beds, put the writing in the beds. Literally took nearly 3 weeks to do a bed, although we got it down to about 2 weeks, week and a half, depending on who was doing it. Sadly, they are no more. It's all grass now, which is kind of sad. Council cutbacks. We've got the worst council in Nottingham. It's got to be said. Um, Council, but also strange decisions. I get that the castle needs to be exploit its theme, but somebody needs to go to Disney and ask them how to exploit a theme because they're not doing it anywhere near good enough. But that's another story for another day. Anyway, yeah, at the castle, it would have 2015 would have been the castle. Motorpoint was 2019 because that was the last time that Batemans were at the beer festival. Funnily enough, along with Thornbridge, who also haven't been to the beer festivals since, obviously with COVID and whatnot. Talking about the Robin Hood for a second, I'll get onto the beer in a minute. Anyway, 6 minutes in, and talked about the beer. Yeah. Anyway, oh, smells gorgeous. Let's dive in. I'm really dry as well. Yeah, the pines there, hints of tropical coming through. Really long lasting flavour on that. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Yeah, obviously now it's at the cricket ground. So 2015 would have been at the castle, and it was also a year that I remember. If Batemans were there that year, not that 100%, 8 years ago, I've slept since then. They would have probably been in the big tent on the main field. But I'm sure if anybody from Bateman's watching this, they'll be able to correct me. There were quite a few breweries then. The castle is an iconic place, but I still think the cricket ground is a better place, especially when the weather's a bit more unpalatable, shall we say. So anyway, here we go. And like I said, there's a Batemans Brewery pub in Ilkeston, Shipley Common. Keeps coming up in my. I wanted one in Nottinghamshire, but all I'm getting is Ilkeston, which is actually in Derbyshire, but it's not too far away from me. I mean, I actually work at Salem House in Newark, but it's 40 minutes for me to get to Newark, whereas Ilkeston's like 15, 20 minutes away. So it's something that I'll put on my radar. And if anybody from Ilkeston who watches this beer review, and obviously this is, Salem Brew Company, aka Batemans. If you go in that pub, let me know and let me know what cask beer they have on. I'd love to go over. It's the closest one to me. Ilkeston's got some cracking boozers in Ilkeston as well. And, a Raggy's Beer Review official capacity visit. Yeah, I walk in the door, nobody knows who I am, which is how it should be anyway. And I just, excuse me, can I have 2 pints, please? Or 2 halves? And I'll grab 2 halves, sit down, and then while nobody's watching, quickly do my 1 minute cask reviews, and then probably go through the bar, whatever they've got on the bar that I've never had on cask before, and then walk out. No one's even recognised me or anything, which is always good. And the funny thing is, then I do a pub review, and and that's basically what I do. I go into pubs. I don't say that I do beer reviews or anything to the people behind the bar. Most people behind the bar don't give them on care anyway, and never heard of you. Only people on social media know who you are, and people who watch the channel, they'll know for the most part, at least, I suppose. And they still won't care because that's the way the world is, and I don't blame them. I won't care either. It's like when I was in Sainsbury's, and the first person that ever said anything about Raggy's Beer Reviews says, "You're Raggy's Beer Reviews, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I'm in Sainsbury's, my local Sainsbury's. I've never had this before," and I was really gobsmacked. And it's like, oh God. And then literally a few weeks later, I'm walking around Home Bargains, and just walking around, and somebody looked at me, and I'm like, okay, what? It was a bit of a slightly strange look, and then as I'm walking out, I heard him talk to his wife. Says, "That's Raggy's beer reviews," and I'm like, "Oh God, no, no." So it is funny. I'm used to it a little bit more now. I mean, obviously at work, nobody takes any notice whatsoever. Yeah, you're just a gardener. Yeah, yeah. I think most of the time I forget I'm even there. Yeah, especially when they're all eating nice food and I'm outside and I look in the window. I'm starving. I'm salivating at the window. No, I'm not really, but so look at that. It's looking great. Um, Obviously, it's quite different, a little bit different from their normal range. I mean, obviously, we've got the mocha. I remember, like I said, and if you've watched these reviews over the years, I remember when it came into Sainsbury's as part of the Great British Beer Hunt and won it. Uh, then obviously Triple XB, Double XB, Victory Ale. There's another one as well that I can't. I've just lost it. Combined Harvest. So yeah, and then there's the seasonal ones. I've just seen a seasonal one go on, and you know me, if you're a beer fan slash beer reviewer, somebody who likes beers, you always like to complete your set, don't you? You see a new beer come out, I've got to have that. You know, not that you do it all the time, but there you go. So it's a craftier version, but for me, it's just a really nice, easy drinking American IPA. Tropical, piney, not in your face. So, you know, if you don't want something that's too in your face, for me, this is that bridge. So, what we've got full on traditional beers, very, very malty, very, very old fashioned beers. Then we've got modern traditional, where most of the bottled beers these days sit in that area. And on that side, we've got full on craft beers that are hoppy, and expensive as well. You know, let's remember that they are expensive because of what goes into the beers. You know, even the big breweries can't produce beers that have got full of hops like these craft beers because of the produce that goes in, and also government duty, which is another thing why beers like that. And then you've got that middle. There's a middle ground between modern traditional and craft beer. And this is firmly where that sits in, for me at least. I may be wrong. I may upset some people out there. But it's in that sweet spot where it's in a bottle. This could be in a can and you'd still say it was the same, you know. But it's in that sweet spot where the price, the flavour, it's delivering, but it's delivering without having to have all them hops and that in, which would force the price up. So there we go. Um, that's my look on things, to be honest. Um, at least. So, oh, now here's another thing, and this is a beer reviewer thing. What beer reviewers need to remember is not everyone's got your palate. So, somebody who's used to drinking very hoppy, big craft beers might come to this and it's not their cup of tea because of the fact that they're used to much more hoppier, much more crafty beers, as it were. And then you've got the other side of the scale where somebody who's used to more supermarket beers and traditional beers, and they go to this, and it might be too much for them. And that's the interesting thing with beer reviews, where see, my background is modern traditional. I can do craft, I can do modern traditional. Where I do struggle a little bit is your farmhouse beers And I really do struggle on farmhouse. It's an acquired taste for sure. Uh, and Belgian beers for years. I hated Belgian beers. And again, once you get used to tastes, your taste buds can adapt, and it's all about grabbing a beer like this beer. You try it, and if it's not your cup of tea straight away, you give yourself a chance. Let the air get to it. Let it breathe like a wine. Beers change when they breathe. Wines change when they breathe. You know, air changes beers. And not only that, the more you drink it, the more. Not every beer. I mean, I've drank Hogarden and in a pub, and I'd already had a fistful of beer. And mate says, this is lovely. And you'd think you'd be at that stage where you think, well, just neck it. And I couldn't. It was absolutely rancid. And still not my favourite beer to this day. Now I'm getting citrus, big dollop of pine, and yeah, it's a nice beer. And it's a nice beer to bring people from modern traditional into the fuller on craft beers. Uh, if I make sense on that, and I haven't rattled on too long. I've been at work since 5:30 this morning, and I've already done another brewery before this, so yeah, I can rattle. It is a thing. It's funny because you put me on a stage in front of people, and I'd be really, really quiet. And I've got my wedding's coming up soon, and I've got to do a speech, and it's really funny how you can be this open in front of your camera, and then when there's a microphone, there's people looking at you. I think, oh no. Yeah, well, other words I was going to use, yeah. Don't mind me, no. But anyway, yeah, Skull and Hammers. I remember when it first came out. If this is the same beer that came out about a year or two ago, I remember being one of the first people in the UK, if not the first in the UK, to review this beer. If it's the same iteration, anyway. Crystal clear, golden pour, white head, tropical. There's citrus elements. There's certainly a piney element, and it's very nice drinking. Good 4.5 out of 5. Cheers.